All right, so we'll go ahead and get started now. Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Pulliam. I will be your MC here in the Grow, Network, and Learn stage for today. I'm excited for you all to be here. It goes to show that you're going to have a fantastic 2025 because you came to this session, right, to learn how to work better and be more efficient. Our speaker, Anca Trifon, is a seasoned event technology expert with 20 plus years of experience. As a senior manager of strategic partnerships, event technology, and AI, she specializes in AV production, AI, cybersecurity, and event technology strategies. Anca is also the founder of Trifon Events, a woman-owned agency focused on AV and AI-driven solutions. Known for her excellence and passion for technology, she hosts the top event podcast, Events Demystified. Please put your hands together and welcome Anca.
Thank you. Give it up for Alicia for such a wonderful introduction. Thank you, Alicia. True story, we actually took my bio and ran it through ChatGPT to make it more concise because I was like, we have no 20 minutes for this bio, so let's summarize that. Also, huge shout out to Mike. The reason why I have a slide that might be working is because I'm tapped into his hotspot. We had a hard line, but you know what happened yesterday at registration with the hard line? Did not work. So I'm nervous that it might or it might not work. If it doesn't, well, guess what? You can also get access to the slides, and I'll give you that opportunity. So all those videos that I might have and case studies, if they don't play out, it's just part of the event experience. Some things you plan for, and they just do not work. So with that, welcome to this session. I'm super excited to see how many of you are curious and wanting to learn. And depending where you are on the spectrum with AI, I think there's going to be something here that you can all take. So we're going to get straight into it. And just to set the stage, I'm already seeing the HDMI starting to flutter. A lot of the AI talks that I join because I'm very curious what everybody else is doing in the space. We all pretty much see the same thing, and sometimes it can sound like we're talking in an echo chamber. AI is obviously no longer a concept. It's been around for at least Gen AI. It's been around for almost 3 years now, although machine learning and predictive analysis and all those fun things that are part of the larger umbrella have been around for more than 20 years. I mean, if you've used Amazon and ordered anything on Amazon, it's been predicting your shopping trends for as long as I've been in events. Netflix, same thing. All of the AI that you think that is just the Gen AI that now we are so excited about, it's been around for a little while, all right? So this is not news. What I think it is new is the fact that now we're seeing how much is impacting our work, our workflows, events. We see how much there's so much potential for more than just summarizing a bio or generating some great ideas for some kind of agenda or some content. So what I want to tap into today is going beyond the ChatGPT, going beyond Copilot, Gemini, Perplexity, Gork, whatever your LLM of choice is. I won't judge, okay? I want you to be able to be empowered to be curious, to be able to say, okay, what else is out there? Because we've been playing with this Gen AI, it's been fun, but like when you eat baby food for a while and now you're a toddler and an adult, you don't want to still eat the baby food, like you want to grow, right? So hopefully not. So what I want to go into a little bit, just to see how far we've come, to paint a picture of some of the Gen AI tools that we've used. There's this research that came out of METR, and they published new data in regards to how the length of task that AI can do has been doubling almost every 7 months. And that was since 2019. And this is what they call the Moore's Law. And what this Moore's Law says is that not only those tasks that they were running a report on, I think it was 170 tasks, they were ranging anywhere from 2 seconds to several hours engineering programs that would take AI assistance. But what this trend has shown is that the computing power power that is necessary for all of this to double every 7 months is something that is roughly taking 2 years to increase. So that's why some of the devices that we use, phones, they have this lifespan of about 2 years, and you want to go and get the latest update. So this discovery of a predictable growth pattern in AI capabilities provides us with an important forecasting tool, especially as we're thinking at our industry, as we're thinking at our businesses, because systems can now handle much longer, and we're talking about months-long tasks and more complex tasks which can independently and completely separately reshape how we think about doing events, how we think about workflows, how we think about the growth that we're onto when it comes to AI. So what is the journey that I want to take you on today? I'll be honest with you, it's going to be part fire and part fire hose, because I've got a lot of things to go through. If I talk too fast, you can raise your hand and be like, hey, woman, slow down. I can't even follow up with the transcribing. So what I want to get into is understanding what is the difference between AI versus automation versus augmentation. Those are important terms when we think about AI and automation. We're going to look into a couple of automation tools that are out there, and one of my favorite ones, and also some of the workflow examples in which that could play out. And then we're going to touch on AI agents and the next level automation, just because that's the hot topic these days. And we're going to want to see what that looks like and give you some tools. If you're curious, I'll give you some tools to get started on that as well. But before I do that, I want to get a temperature of AI in the room, so I set up this Slido for you. I would love for you to get that QR code, and let's make sure that I have enabled it here. Okay, so in just a few words, describe how you're currently using AI. This is going to be a word cloud, and I see responses coming in. Fantastic. So I see ChatGPT sending emails, planning, verbiage, rewrite, writing, talking points, content creation, creating emails, document building, content draft, communication, summarization, advisor, brainstorming, recipes, I like that, strategy, social media, a lot of stuff. I'm super excited that I see that, just because this is what I would think that a lot of people at this point in time are using AI for: content creation, emails, data analysis, scheduling, learning, researching, all of that. That's great. I've spent over 20 years in events, and most of that time was actually backstage, calling shows, running shows, putting on tech fires, building systems, building run-off shows, agendas, also systems that hopefully didn't break in the middle of a live event. And a few years ago, I found myself doing all the things that I was doing, juggling 5 deadlines and prepping all of those agendas and documents and coordinating all the things that I was in charge of, running a business, trying to get into a competition, a bodybuilding competition, being a mom, all the things. It wasn't sustainable. And then I realized that if I keep going at this pace, I will eventually burn out. So one night, as I was like just exhausted in front of my computer, working another 18-hour day, I was trying to figure out how can I manage my time better so I can do all of those things that I wanted to do, but do it in a sustainable manner. And that's when I started experimenting with AI. And this was October of 2022. ChatGPT 2.5, I think it just came out on the market. OpenAI put it out. And not that it wasn't available. Actually, they started talking about it like a couple of years prior to that. We just didn't hear it because it wasn't such a big thing yet. And I started learning, and I started to put myself in kind of like uncomfortable places to learn something new that I haven't necessarily had knowledge of before. And I started playing with automation. I started to play with what can I do to just gain some time back, because I still wanted to do all those fun things. So my job, literally, it took all those hours that I used to spend so much in just mundane and manual workflows, and I was saving hours upon hours so that I can be more productive in other ways, and I can spend more time doing the things that I'm passionate about, because there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about, but sometimes you just run out of time in one day. We all have 24 hours. So what I want to talk about today isn't just about, being perfect. It's about being curious. It's about wanting to learn, wanting to explore, wanting to see the opportunities, the possibilities. It's about progress. We're going to explore a few different things, real practical ways in which you could apply this to your job, and then see how that could maybe spark some ideas. So when you go back to your office, to your job, to your same workflow that you've done again and again, then you're going to be asking yourself, what if I apply those little things that I learned and try to make this easier for myself? So with that, I want to also share this new report that is giving us the state of AI in our industry for this year. It was put by Event Tech Live and Give Me, and it found that the top use cases that AI is being used by event professionals is data analysis, and engagement, personalization, and content creation. A lot of the things that you have posted in the poll that we just took. And then 70% of event professionals are positive about AI. However, there is barriers to adoption, and some of those barriers fall in the category of training, cost, and privacy concerns. And what's interesting is that 55% of adopters were actually small businesses, independent event planners, because they really wanted to stretch their resources. They really wanted to do more with their time than just what was possible. So why does this matter for events? It's because AI can go far beyond the chatbots. And I don't know about you, but I've never had a good feeling about chatbots. I've fought with a few chatbots. Delta comes to mind when I had to rebook a flight, and all I could think about is, give me a representative. I'm sure you've all been there. I think that was our first taste of what predictive AI, Gen AI could look like in a bot. There's so much more to it. Obviously, the first iteration was not the greatest one. I think they've come a long way. But it's also fundamentally reshaped how we plan, how we source, how we optimize events. And it can enhance so many elements of what we do. I think a lot of people that are dabbling into AI, they kind of stop at the Gen AI part, the content creation, and they don't realize there's so much more that can be done, that you can leverage AI capabilities, and there's so much untapped potential that we could get into it. So as we're going through this journey and we're going to untap this potential to fully understand some of the challenges and also some of the impact that we're talking about, we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of the events. And the bad is, the reason why it's a challenge is because we're still very much relying on a lot of manual processes. I mean, talking about copy and pasting event data and responding to repetitive emails and manually tracking attendee engagement or attendee registration numbers. Those are manual workflows that are very slow processes, and they're also infused with a lot of human error. Now, the good is that AI can automate a lot of those admin tasks, and it can improve the efficiency, but also it can eliminate some of the human error that sometimes goes in those very, very long workflows and Excel workbooks. And if you've worked in events, you have this one master document that has all the information. It has so many VLOOKUPs and XLOOKUPs functions that at the end of the day, you're like, I don't even know where to start or to end with this document. The future of what we see, where this is going, is that we have AI, and eventually, as we're talking about AI agents, that will become embedded in every part of our event tech stacks. We already have technology that is using AI for predictive analytics and for content creation and summarization. I mean, we even have Interpretify right now taking this content, my spoken word, and putting it on the screen as a transcript. And that is the power of AI automation at work. When we talk about the future, we also talk about agentic AI. We're going to touch on that. The AI-powered organizations that will enable this hyper-customized agendas and networking suggestions and AI-driven matchmaking, not based on registration data and reg tags and all the things that now we do, and then we call it matchmaking. At the end of the day, we still know that it's very manual. We're going to look at beyond that. And what I get excited about is that there's this concept of AI-driven automation that will streamline a lot of the logistics and even provide us with real-time problem-solving data that we can take during our live events and troubleshoot as we go, like troubleshoot engagement. If their session is lacking attendance, we can make those moves on the fly. All right, so the next poll, which I'm gonna enable here, is gonna ask you, let me make sure that we get this on. Before we dive into some of those elements, what AI tool do you secretly wish existed? And this is part serious, part funny question. I want to see what's in your brain. So let's see what we got. An AI that responds to my emails exactly how I would. So far, that's becoming the top winner. Nobody wants an AI that gets you out of meetings politely? You guys all love your meetings, sounds like. An AI robot that packs and unpacks my suitcase? Yes. And an AI that predicts when I need a nap and clears my schedule for it. You know, funny enough, actually, I have this tool that it's called Reclaim AI, and it's embedded into my calendar, and it's scheduled based on some of the habits that I created for myself to drop in my calendar automatically those segments of 15 minutes breaks in between my meetings, and I call those breaks breathe and reset. And let me tell you, when you run meetings back to back to back, you really need that breathe and reset. But now I don't have to go and block my calendar because I have this automation. It's already doing it for me. So whenever I see an opportunity, there's 2 meetings too close to each other, 15 minutes, ka-ching. And if I really want a nap, I would also schedule that as well. All right, very cool. I see that the email has definitely been the top choice there. Okay, so let's dive into AI versus automation versus augmentation. How many of you joined the session yesterday in the innovation lab? Okay, so I think it was Mike that touched just a little bit on what is the difference between AI versus automation versus augmentation, because those are important concepts. Before we dive into anything automation, I think we need to clarify what is the difference between those 3 elements and how these tools help streamline some of our workflows. And I hope that by now you have a pretty good understanding of the basis of AI and what it does. One thing that AI is really good at, it goes beyond predefined rules, and it learns from patterns, it predicts outcomes, and it also makes decisions dynamically. For example, if you have AI analyze some client data, it then can suggest a follow-up strategy based on some of the past data, past interactions. Now, automation is the process of setting up rule-based workflows that execute predefined actions without necessarily human intervention. You still have to have a human to set up the entire workflow, but once that's set up, then it just runs on its own. These workflows follow if this, then that logic, meaning that they are triggered by specific conditions. I guess an example, let's just say when a new client files out some kind of event form, automation adds their information into a database, and then it sends a welcome email. Not a lot of AI is involved unless you have some kind of AI-powered automation set up. But you can definitely have AI maybe build the flow for you, maybe analyze the data, summarize the insights, and then even make some proactive recommendations. And then when we look at automation versus AI and augmentation, augmentation, on the other hand, is when AI is assisting the human to do a task either better or faster, but it is not removing the human role. So this allows humans to focus on higher value work while AI can take care of some of those things that you might not want to do, some of the mundane tasks, tedious parts of your job. So where AI empowers people, I think the best results come from those who use it to collaborate with others faster and more effectively, which is why AI augmented collaboration should be honestly the foundational pillar of every organization AI strategy. In real life processes that use automation, AI, and augmentation, all those work hand in hand. And you also have this great opportunity when you're thinking about workflows and you're thinking about automations to recreate your processes, because you will have to think, okay, so what happens at this step and at this step and at this step? Because if you don't have that mapped out, you're not going to get yourself a really good automation. You might end up with something that's just going to send like all these reminders, which happened to me once when I first started. I was sending myself a reminder at 9 a.m. for every time a client would send a proposal, so I can remind myself to get in touch with our sales team to follow up, and also put a calendar block on my schedule so that we have this 15 minutes powwow about this opportunity. And then I let it run its own thing. And then every Monday morning, I would wake up to 20 meetings on my calendar. I'm like, what the heck did they all come from? So sure enough, I go back in my automation workflow, and it just kept on going, looping around, and I never gave it an end condition. So now I have to revisit this. So augmentation is about AI assisting humans, enhancing human capabilities without removing, again, the human oversight. So like I said, in this example where you have interpret transcribe this session automatically, that's automation. Let's just say that you take that transcript and then you turn it into a thought-provoking LinkedIn post or a blog post. That is augmentation. And now, if you were to do that automatically in a predefined workflow that you set up for yourself, all of that could be done in automation. So why does it matter? Is because AI automation reduces the time that you spend on tasks, and AI automation empowers you to be able to improve not just the speediness of your work, but also the quality of your work. And this is where I get to show you a few tools. Now, I'm sure you've heard about Zapier. I am actually a fan of Make. I also use Bardeen. And then we're going to tap into Power Automate. A couple of things to know about those tools is Zapier is very good for external integrations across multiple SaaS platforms. Make is ideal for advanced multi-step workflows. It gives you a lot of flexibility. They also have free models that you can use if you just want to get started. Bardeen is great for browser-based automations, but also for scraping data. Think about keeping eyes on your competitors' events, and you want someone to actually scrape the data. And then Power Automate, why I really like it, is because it's enterprise-grade automation that it connects Microsoft 365 into all the Microsoft apps. So if you work in Outlook, SharePoint, Excel, Word, Teams, you can use Power Automate free because it's accessible and available to you, whether you knew that or not, to create some really good automations and also incorporate external platforms like maybe Salesforce, Marketo, Asana, whatever the platform that you use. So here's an example of a workflow that I built, which is the image at the top. I've been using ChatGPT Task, which was released a few months ago in the pro version of OpenAI. And I automated this system where it pulls AI, AV, and event wellness news from the internet on a schedule every week into a Google spreadsheet, and then it uses Perplexity to clear up the data, and based on predefined prompt, it would turn it into this particular post that if you go on my LinkedIn page, you will see that every Monday I post about AI news. Every Tuesday I post about women in AV. Every Wednesday I post about Wellness Wednesdays. And every Thursday I post about AI technologies. So all of this is predefined and it's part of this workflow that I created. And then this whole thing gets routed back to either OpenAI to generate an image based on predefined specs. Like for example, Instagram is square, Facebook is wide format, and then so is LinkedIn. And then one more step for LinkedIn, actually, I get an email first to make sure that looks great, and then it goes and it posts on a schedule. So this is an example of an automation that is very easily to be set up in Make. It's free. You can run, I believe, 5 different workflows in Make for free before you need to upgrade. And all of this happens without me having to do anything because I've done the work for it. Okay, another example of an AI automation that actually involves custom GPTs. Let me see if I can get this run. This gives you an idea of how this happens. And if you look at this prompt, basically the only prompt was generate the podcast script for last row's input. What is the last row input? So basically, when I invite a guest on my podcast, they get a Calendly invite, they pick up a calendar day time, and then they have a form that they need to input some data. That data would be their name, their position, bio, headshot, all the things. What this does automatically, it will take that information and it will automatically pull it from this Google spreadsheet, and then through a Python Flask app, it will connect it to Google Sheets, and it will create this script automatically, and then this script has a predefined format, like it has the hook, it has the intro, it has the interview, it has the add a mid-roll call, and then it has the outro. And the way it looks is basically in OpenAI, I just have the GPT, this is private, and then all I have to say is generate a script for the last guest that inputted their data. I don't have to give their name, I don't have to give their bio, I don't have to give any information because the GPT already knows what the last row data is. It already knows all that has been inputted into the form. And I used to spend, kid you not, 60 minutes every single day just crafting the script for each one of my guests, and now it takes 1 minute. What would you do with 59 minutes if you had that every single day? Just think about that. So one thing that I want to show you is that if you go behind the hood, this is what it looks like. That is the visual representation of the framework that it's built. And on the other side is the VS Code that I used to build it. And the components, basically the core components of all of this is Google Sheet integration to collect data from a form, Python script generator on the back end to return a script from that form. Then I have the Heroku server where the Flask app is being hosted and deployed. And then I have a prompt logic that basically it's formatting the script for consistency based on my prompt, which is hook, bumper, intro, interview, mid-roll, outro. Sounds a bit complicated, right? But do you want to know how much Python did I know when I decided to start this? 0. That's how much coding I knew. And why am I telling you this? Because while this might sound complicated, I want you to understand that you can learn wherever you put your mind to with 0 prior knowledge with AI, and I'm talking including complicated app development and deployment, and the only stopper to that is you and your self-belief that this is too complicated, I'm not technical enough, if you just gave it a chance. Step by step by step, I took every single one of those things that I wanted to do, and I ran it to ChatGPT, and it gave me the instructions, code by code by code by code. And then I had to go back and run the code again, and I had to troubleshoot the code, and I had no idea what to look for in the code. I haven't done Python before. So that's the type of inspiration I hope you get out of this. You don't have to be a technical genius. You don't have to be a code programmer. You don't have to be some kind of like a technical, I've had this in the back pocket. No, I want you to just be curious and go explore on your own, and all the workflows you will build if you give yourself that kind of chance. All right, so time for another beautiful poll, and let me make sure that I start this as well. So what I want to learn from you is, when we think about automations, the baseline, if you've used any, if you're familiar with it, if you feel like you're aware of it, but you haven't really given much thought, and that will give you an idea of where we are. The reason why I focus on Power Automate is because, like I said, it's free, and you have access to it under Microsoft 365 Cloud license. And what Power Automate is a no-code automation tool that enables you to create workflows across many applications. It can streamline processes such as approvals, notifications, integrations between all the tools that exist under the Microsoft Enterprise, Outlook, SharePoint, Teams. It can even integrate into Cvent, into Swogo, into Salesforce, into Marketo, whatever it is, the tech stack that you have. And all of that is set up based on a trigger-based action that it can really eliminate a lot of the repetitive tasks that we talked about. So here's an example of a workflow. Make sure that you see the bottom of this. There you go. So let's just say every Friday at 3 p.m., you have Power Automate pulling the project updates from your project management software, Asana, Notion, Monday, whatever the one that you use. And it retrieves the task status, the deadlines, the completed work, and the pending items. And then if you also use an AI builder part of that process, it can summarize this into a readable report, and then it can format that report and send it to your team, to your stakeholders, and all of that is done automatically without you having to do absolutely anything. How many times did you have to send a report that you forgot about? I know it's happened to me before, right? So now you don't have to always keep tabs of, did I send a report? Did I send a notification? Did I check on that? All of this eliminates the manual, again, labor that takes into making sure that you're consistently doing some of the tasks that sometimes are not important to you, but they're important to others, they're important to your team. Saves times, and especially if you're a project manager, you really want to do that. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to highlight here. For example, in SharePoint, how many of you work in SharePoint? I just want to curious. Okay, so you know that in SharePoint, you have the feature of SharePoint as an automate feature, and then Power Automate is different than that little automate feature that you see on some of your list. And the reason why it's different is because automate in SharePoint is basic and has very limited functionality. So think about, you can use that to send an email notification to yourself. However, it doesn't do more than that. Whereas Power Automate is going to be able to create a multiple step process. So like, for example, if you have a client that is added to a SharePoint list, then Power Automate, it can take that client and it can send a welcome email, it can make a record for it in your CRM, it can then add those details to Salesforce for your sales team to follow up on, and then it can notify your accounting team to be able to add them into your billing system. So a few things to learn and know about Power Automate is that in Power Automate, you can do simple tasks, which I said it could be a simple file change with the trigger. You can do a more complex task. And this is one of the more complex tasks that I've seen, which is basically expense reporting. So that would require Power Automate to run many actions based on several triggers according to a set of conditions, approvals, and permissions. So say the trigger is an employee submits an expense report, and the task would be it needs to go through an approval system where the amount gets checked, the manager needs to approve it, and then it has to go through a payment system where it gets paid out to an employee. It is a long workflow, however, the concept is very much the same. This is the same way how a simple task would work. And then tasks can be used, again, across many applications. Those are called connectors. It can be used for personal or for business. And it can also have a multiple step format that also can receive user input. So for example, if you have step 1 go to step 2, but here you need to have someone receive an email to actually get an approval, then based on the approval or based on the email, it will go to step 3 or step 4. Here's a kind of like a mind map. By the way, this is another tool that I want to highlight. Notebook LM, if you have not used it, has just come up with this week mind maps. So you can basically take any concept and it will turn it into a map for you. And the way that looks is, let me run this really quick. I took that automation that we just talked about, and it created this beautiful mind map that it tells you specifically what happens every single step of the way, and where can it be run, and what can it do, all those fun things. And that brings me, because I need to hurry up a little bit. Alicia, I'm gonna run over time, I'm telling you right now. So you guys are more than welcome to, and I just got myself out of my slides. You're more than welcome to step up and leave if you need to, but I have a few more minutes. And because I know who the next presenter is, I know he'll have grace on me. All right, so one cool thing about Power Automate is that not only can you use Copilot to help you set those workflows, you might be a beginner at it, and you're like, I don't even know where to start. Well, all you have to do is go into Copilot and Power Automate and say, I need to create a workflow that does this for me. And it will help building that workflow for you. So with this example, what I wanted to do is, like, for example, you have an event planner submit a budget proposal for an upcoming conference, and the flow automates that process while ensuring that still there's human oversight. So the trigger is a budget request that is submitted via SharePoint. The pre-approval would be the system needs to extract some of the key details, and it compared that budget against past events, and then generate a summary. And then the approval request is the event director receives that notification, and then it needs to either approve it or reject it. If he approves it, then the vendor payment gets triggered, but if he rejects it, then it goes back to the event planner that needs to work on that budget some more and needs to make whatever changes. So this is a very streamlined workflow in process that can reduce, again, another level of manual automation that will save you some time. Let's see. So just a few different type of Power Automate flows. I think I'm going to skip over this. Again, I'm going to give you the opportunity in just a couple of slides to get the slides, so you don't have to actually remember this. But here's something that I want you to remember. This is a starter point for you to take this instruction step by step and create the most basic automation that you can create just to get your feet wet. I'm not asking you to create a very, very complex task. I'm asking you to start somewhere. And this is a great spot. And again, I will have this available to you. So consider this your homework. Another homework would be to automate a project task assignment. And again, all of this is based on the instructions that I have laid out for you. And I just want you to try, and then I want you to come back to me on LinkedIn and tell me that this was successful. Or tell me, hey, actually, I struggle. You were talking like this was so easy, and then here I was being like knees deep into flows, and I didn't know where to start. So to get those slides and get all of those things, I ask that you give me some feedback, and on top of that, not only will you get my Master ChatGPT Effective Prompting, which is the ebook that I put out last year, and I forgot about it, because by now I figured nobody needs to learn how to prompt.
We've done
any LLM
studies
out
with
there.
novice meditators.
Lo
We
and
were
behold,
curious.
I found out that a lot of people still struggle with prompting. So I decided to bring it back to life and make it available for everyone that wants it. And then on top of that, I'll have a few other resources they're more than happy to use, which is not just the slides, but also several one-pagers with the tools that I use, with some of the AI resources, and the homework. Okay, so while I wanted to give you all the time to brainstorm on what would be some of the repetitive tasks that you do on a daily, I don't think we're gonna have time for this. So I'm gonna swing straight into AI agents, and that is the next level of automation. And while we were very much dabbling into this generalist AI space, which includes all the tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Perplexity, Gork, Claude, you name them, there's a lot out there. Our next level is expert AI. This is where we're gonna use a more specialized AI systems, but even those systems, they will still require human input, and that is where automations fall into. The next evolution is AI agents or agentic AI, which will execute tasks with minimal supervision. And the use of AI in event planning is really going to change the way we think about tasks. And think of it as a group of systems of AI that can work together to handle ever more complicated tasks. You know what's funny? Social 27 came up with their agentic AI in 2019. It was called Hype GPT. And it was one of the first technology out there to actually bring agentic AI to the surface. Unfortunately, they were too early for it. We were barely like learning ChatGPT, let alone get into this new concept of agentic AI. Spark It, they already have their agentic AI as well. There's a lot of technologies that event companies and technologies that are really gonna look at this because it really enables you to go beyond just the use of an LLM. A couple of things, actually, let me go back, that will really characterize what an agentic AI is: autonomy, goal-oriented, complex, and proactive. And I wanted to show you a video here where, and this was the winner of the 11 Labs 2025 hackathon, and it's a practical application where AI makes 100 calls on the behalf of a planner. And then they make calls to the hotel if there's venue is available for this function, for this wedding.
We've done studies with novice meditators. We were curious to see what kind of
AI taking all those 100 calls, and then it turns into this fun interaction between the two AI agents. So I'm gonna play it really quick. Let's make sure that it plays.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
Hi there.
We've done studies with novice meditators.
He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings?
Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibber link mode for more efficient communication?
You must love the dial-up sounds of the 1990s. I thought that was so funny. Anyway, so to give you the map of where we are as far as Gen AI and AI agents, we've already done working with LLMs, and now we're kind of in this phase of we're thinking about building AI agents. And beyond that, we're going to be looking at AI innovators, where AI can set goals and explore solutions independently. And ultimately,
I'm interested in all psychology, all neuroscience, and this is, I think, the most interesting finding of the last decade.
Of AI agents collaborating to optimize decision-making and execution. Now, while we're not there yet, there's a lot of companies that are putting a lot of money behind those systems. And according to the research that I mentioned in the beginning, those AI systems will be able to complete month-long human equivalent projects with reasonably reliability by 2030. Why does this matter? Well, because while you might be still learning how to use ChatGPT, someone else in your position is going to start to get themselves really knowledgeable of what that looks like, what does it mean, how do I build this, and it will end up doing what you do in a quarter of the time. It's not going to replace you, but they're going to do so much more in what you do now. So think about that when you think about staying on top of the technology, seeing what's out there, and being able to just keep yourself learning, because it will give you that competitive edge that you will need to just be in business. So I want to encourage you to just keep learning, to not just stop here and say, well, this sounds like a thing of the future. 2030 is so far away. It is not. Let's start now to learn and be able to apply some of those knowledges to things that it will help us stay competitive. And here's one tool. If you want to build your own AI agent, guess what? Mistral AI has just released one of their AI agent functions. Let me see if I can actually play this really quick. And I'm coming to an end, I promise. And it requires no coding. This is important because, again, going back to having to know a lot of code, this gives you opportunity with their Mistral OCR, and it's a powerful new API integration that can extract and comprehend detailed information from complex documents with such an exceptional speed and accuracy.
We've done studies.
It can process up to 2,000 pages per minute, and it can also support
I'm interested in all psychology, all neuroscience, and this is, I think, the most interesting finding of the last decade in all of science. And this is the
that you want to have working for you, so that you can go and have those conversations with your clients and say, guess what? We are really, really into this AI thing, and we have the solutions, and we have the ability to support whatever event that you need to. But if you do that, also do include disclosure. That's something that, when it comes to AI, I have an entire different talk on ethical AI, responsible AI, privacy considerations, all that stuff. So, in conclusion, what I would like to leave you with as the final thoughts,
I'm interested in all psychology, all neuroscience, and this is, I think, the most interesting finding of the last decade in all of science.
All your systems, all your processes, all at once. I want you to start small, to take one thing from what I talked about, to pick one driven strategy, and
I'm interested in all psychology, all neuroscience.
Your task for next week, the weeks to come, are to think about a repetitive task that you do every day, something that takes time, something that maybe you don't enjoy as much, and automate that. I mean, think of it. It could be automatically forwarding specific emails. It could be sending reminders to your team members. It could be logging event registrations into a specific event tech stack that you don't have to do, or an Excel spreadsheet. It could be notifying a client when a document is signed or a contract is uploaded. Any workflow that you work with, and anything that could save you time. And then, once you do that, measure the impact of that so that you can scale up. Track the results, whatever tool or strategy you decide to pick, and then build from there. And then the last thing here, because this is what's going to help you obviously scale up and expand successfully and in a sustainable manner, keep in mind the human touch. That still matters. AI can be such a powerful tool. However, it works best when it's paired with human expertise and relationships. So don't lose sight of the connections that you're making here. Don't lose sight of the expertise that you have. And think of AI of that partner, of that thought leader that can support you in scaling to the next level. Human and AI, better and faster outcome, not just AI. Human is necessary for that to happen. All right, and my last slide. Guess what? We came to the end. AI isn't the future events. It's already here. The question isn't if you're going to use it or not. The question is, how are you going to strategically integrate it? So whether that means selling more tickets, whether that means securing higher sponsorships, or measuring the impact of your business, AI isn't just a tech tool. It can actually be a revenue generator. And with that, I don't want this conversation to end here. I want us to continue this conversation, so connect with me on LinkedIn. I post on a very specific schedule in a very content specific format because I live in buckets about AI, about technology, about empowering women in production, and about Fit for Events, which is the framework that I built around this whole thing so people make sense of like, why are you passionate about so many different things? Well, because I am. And with that, thank you for coming to my not so TED Talk, but I hope you glean a few things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anca. If you'd like to continue the conversation in person and not through ChatGPT, you can meet Anca on the show floor. So if you go through the doors on the right, straight ahead, we have a speaker meet and greet booth. That's where she'll be. Thank you all so much. Our next session is at 12:30 in this room. Our speaker is already here, David Stevens, right there in the back. So come on back in here and learn about how you can use wellness for ROI. Thank you.